today we're going to be talking about our thoughts on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Darwin, you have some questions that you prepared?
Yeah, okay, so first off...
Oh wait, before you start,
Okay.
I'd like to say that this podcast is going to be different from the others in the way that anybody who's watching can comment their thoughts on it, and we just like to have a conversation with the people who are watching this. So if you have any thoughts, please put down a comment and add to our conversation. All right.
It'll be like an actual discussion with, and it'll be like an overall just a discussion where everyone, like, we can just like, talk intelligently about stuff that we like.
Very nice.
So, my first question is like something that like people have been talking about a lot. Like all of the Marvel movies are the same, and they all like adhere to one formula. And I was just wondering, like, how do you feel about that? Because I mean, like I know we've talked before, and you're feeling like the superhero movie fatigue, and I was really just wondering what you thought about that.
Say the question again. I'm sorry, I was focusing on the game.
Okay, like how do you feel
Carmen, I'm uploading
about
a photo. Does this woman look familiar?
people say that Marvel, like all the Marvel movies are the same, and they're
Oh.
all just
Sounds
the
like she's
same
blackmailing
movie
him.
and the same
She
formula.
mentioned something
Like,
about
what
plans.
do you think about that?
Well, you know, I think I don't think all of them are the same, because I mean, like, Thor Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy definitely disprove that there is some variation between the movies. Because you watch Captain America: The First Avenger, and that's vastly different from Guardians of the Galaxy, or you know, Iron Man is vastly different from Captain America as well. So
I need a photo.
I don't think all of them are the same, but there are definitely certain aspects of the films that make them similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but what I think is weird about that is that like people are like, oh, they're all the same, like they're just adhering to a formula. I mean, like there have been story structures like the hero's journey that's been around forever, and no one has really called that out either. I mean, like, there are some people who don't enjoy those type of movies.
No perches with a
But
good
I
angle
mean,
on this new guy.
That's, I think it's
Looks
just
like it's the underside of the highlight.
kind of like like hypocritic to be like, oh, they're all the same, you know, they just adhere to a formula. I'm like, okay, look, like so does like Hercules and like Lord of the Rings,
Right.
and Star Wars. They all adhere to a story structure of the hero's journey. I mean, like, you don't have a lot of people be like, oh, Star Wars is just the same as Lord of the Rings. Like, there are people who like joke about it, and like every like person who has Facebook who has seen that thing that's like, oh, Harry Potter is just Lord of the Rings, because they both have characters that have beards.
Another
Yeah,
victim or an
but
accomplice? I need a photo.
I mean, do you have any other thoughts
Perches
about
with a
that
good angle on this
before I
new
go on
guy.
to my next question?
Looks like it's the underside of
Um,
the highline.
Not. No, I don't think so. Not that I can think of at the moment.
So, okay, so now that like the story for the main six Avengers, like Captain America, like Thor, Iron Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, now that their story has ended and most of them are dead or have left, do you think they should drop
Just
the
what I
title
needed.
of the Avengers, or do you think the Avengers should be like a rotating cast? Because I mean, a lot of people, like, I think it was Tom Holland, but I'm not like
How
I'm
many
not
people are in on
100%
this?
sure, but
I've
they
got a
were saying
following.
like, oh, Spider-Man's gonna be the new Iron Man of the Avengers, and like they're thinking about just having like a rotating roster. Now, what do you think? Because Marvel has a lot of superhero teams that they could use instead.
Yeah.
Where's he getting off?
I think if they're gonna keep going with the
Train system should
Avengers,
help me follow the train's path.
that it should just stay the Avengers, you know, because that's the way it is in the comics. Like, the Avengers isn't just the group that we've seen in the movies. It's the cast of the Avengers has been so many different characters and different groups and combinations of those characters. So I think they should just keep it going like the comics, where you know it's just the Avengers, and there's like the new Avengers, there's like the Kid Avengers or whatever. There's all those, yeah, there's all those different like subgroups of the Avengers, so they could do that possibly, but I don't see the point of renaming the group just because it's not the same cast.
I should head over near the subway
Also,
and
like,
wait for him to
maybe
get out.
instead of having the Avengers, do you think now that they have the rights to Fantastic Four and the X-Men, do you think they should focus on them instead? And like,
He's heading for that office.
there's also like another question that I've written down is like, do you think X-Men could work in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I know that's like 3 different questions, but
I think the X-Men could work, but they'd have to do it really carefully, and the reason for that is because it's because you know, dang, what's his name? Why can't I think of his name?
Kevin Feige?
Not Kevin Feige. Wolverine.
Oh, Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think of his name, but because of Hugh Jackman is like, he's gonna be really difficult to replace as the Wolverine, and then there's, well, just like the X-Men movies have already been like such a big franchise, and so, and there's people that love that franchise. I personally don't think it's that good, with the exception of 2 of the movies.
All the evidence I need. I
But
just have to stop that car.
they're gonna have to be careful with how they do those stories and how they deal with those characters, because it's gonna be very difficult to replace what's already been made. So, what do you think?
Well, I don't think it'd be more of a problem to replace them. It's just that we've seen like 3 different versions of Cyclops. There's like the original version, and then there's or I guess it wouldn't be 3, I guess it would be 2. But then there's like the one in Apocalypse. And I mean, it's like every couple of years they recast or they get younger versions. So I mean, except for like Wolverine, but I mean, there are 2 people that have played Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
And like if they do it again, there'll be a 3rd one. And so, like, it would be weird because this is kind of off topic, but like my grandma like hates Spider-Man because every time she watches a movie, there's a different actor.
Yeah.
And it would be exactly the same way, because even my dad
I
was
love it
like
when
that.
a plan falls
He
apart.
likes like comic book movies,
Hey Carmen,
and he'll watch
your
them
husband's
with me.
pal and his team
Right.
just
Like,
had their
a lot
trip
of
to
times
beautiful Atlantic
beforehand,
City canceled.
like he asks, like, okay, which Spider-Man is this, or like which Batman is this, which Superman, because they recast every like so often in every couple years.
I've got a contact on the
And
force.
that's like, it'd just
She'll
be like,
help
oh,
Rodrigo,
they're doing it
especially
again.
if he'll agree to
Versus
Yeah.
testify
the
about the
normal
blackmail.
audience, like the movie-going audience would be, oh, they're doing it again. Or like, oh, which Professor X is this? Because I mean, those X-Men movies are already really convoluted and complicated because of like Days of Future Past and like X-Men First Class and them going back in time and everything. And so I think it'd be difficult for like the normal audience to kind of pick up on it. But also the problem with X-Men is that you have the question of where have they been this entire time? 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, like with Captain Marvel, they had a pretty good excuse. It was like, oh, she was off. But I mean,
Can you say that again? Your mic cut out. Darwin? Okay. Well, seems like we're having some technical difficulties at the moment.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was saying, like, one of the bigger problems with the X-Men is that, like, where would they have been this entire time? Because, I mean, with Captain Marvel, they got away with it pretty easily, because they were like, oh, well, she was just in space, like, saving space stuff.
Right.
You're, like, not really supposed to think about it, but, like, the X-Men, that's an entire society of people. You know, like, what were they doing when Thanos attacked? What were they doing when New York was attacked by Loki? So I mean, they would have a pretty hard. I think they would have a pretty hard time trying to come up with an excuse.
Right.
Because they've already done that with Black Panther, and like because they keep having these secret societies, that it's gonna kind of I feel like it would be kind of like a cop out, like, oh well, this is just even more of the secret.
For criminals, these guys have an impressive social circle.
And
yeah.
So I think that would be one of the bigger problems that they would face, because I mean, Wolverine is supposed to have fought with Captain America in World War II.
Right.
You know, and if he's lived through all these different time periods, that could also lend itself to interesting stories of like, oh, what was Wolverine doing whenever Captain America was fighting Iron Man in a parking lot, you know?
Yeah.
But I think Fantastic Four would actually work better in the MCU.
Yeah, because with the Fantastic Four, you can just have them just now becoming a team instead of them having been a team the entire time.
Sorry.
Where with the X-Men, they've been around forever, you know.
What I was thinking for Fantastic Four is that you have them, because like their whole thing is that they went up into space to explore, and like a solar flare or whatever happened, or like a dark matter or whatever gave them superpowers. I was like, well, like what I was thinking is, what if in like the 60s or in the 70s they were a group of scientists and they went up into space and they got trapped in another dimension. I know there's like a very like specific comic term for like, it's not, is it the Phantom Zone? It's something like that.
I'm not sure.
But they like, what if they got trapped in there, and then with the fight with Thanos, like the barrier between the two different dimensions got ripped open, and now they're back in modern times.
Yeah, so that could work.
I think that would be really cool, because I mean, we already, or instead of like a Phantom Zone or whatever, like, what if they just get caught in the quantum realm? Because that's been explored in Ant-Man and Doctor Strange.
Yep.
And like time works differently there, you know? Because I mean, if Ant-Man is in there for like 5 hours and it's 5 years or whatever, then they could have been like, oh, we were in there for days, but then it would turn out to be like 50, 60 years.
Right.
You know? And then they could just move into Tony Stark's old Avengers Tower, and that could be the Baxter Building. It would fit in so well.
Come on! Demons and escaped prisoners on the loose, and you're arresting protesters?
And John Krasinski should play Mr. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
And Emily Blunt can be Invisible Woman.
Yes.
But, okay.
What's the next question?
My next question is... Okay, so... It's a little weird, because it's like all the side characters from the main Avengers storyline are all getting Disney Plus shows, like Wanda and Vision and Captain, Bucky and Winter and Bucky the Falcon.
Yeah.
And they're all getting like TV shows. And do you think that like that they should just either focus on movies or the TV shows? Because like there's no way everyone is and they're saying that the TV shows are integral to the movies. But I mean, there's like no way you can get everyone, even
these Sable guys were gonna be bad news.
Except for the people that are paid to to watch all of it.
Yeah.
Like, do you think they should focus on one or the other, or is it just like a bad idea in general?
I think that they should just focus on one of them. So, like, there's a lot of possibilities in both areas. With like the TV show, they can do it like, you know, the mini-series type stuff, where, you know, they can have multiple long episodes and really drag out the storyline. Where with the movies, they're kind of tied down to a time constraint, like of the 2.5 hours or 1.5 hours, you know. So I think with the TV series, they can flesh out more things, bring in more characters and stuff, and make sure that everybody gets the right amount of screen time. But the movies have been working so far, so I don't really see why they would stop with the movies being so successful. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you think on that?
First off, David is asking if you could turn down the game volume a bit.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and then Armstrong says Phantom Zone is DC. I'm sorry, I got them mixed up. Fruitarian Frugivore says we love Captain Marvel. I don't hate Captain Marvel as much as a lot of other people do. I think Brie Larson like can evolve into really fleshing out Captain Marvel, but that's a different. Back to like the main matter at hand. I think it's I don't really know, because some of me is like, okay, they should just stick to, now that the main storyline is over, they should just stick to making like movies and really focusing on each one to make them better. Because I mean, a lot of people are feeling the superhero fatigue, and a lot of them are like, oh, well, they're all the same anyways. So why not just try to focus all of your time and your resources on making each one that you do as great as it can be, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I wish Winter Soldier had more stuff to do in the movies, but I don't know. I'm not very excited for that show, though. You know?
Yeah, I'm not really excited for any of the shows or any of the movies, really. But that's just because I feel like after Endgame, like it should stop. But I don't know. Like, I'm sure I'll watch him eventually. Ooh. But I'm not really excited for them.
Yeah. I don't know, cause like I think Shang-Chi could either be really great or it's just going to be another Marvel movie. Because I mean, if they really put the time into it and made it like a really good kung fu movie, because like Shang-Chi is, besides Danny Rand, he's like, oh, that's the kung fu superhero, you know, and that'd be very different from anything that we've seen from Marvel so far. If it was just a full-on action karate movie, and that would be like kung fu movie, I think that would be really cool. But I don't know. It's weird because I'm not excited for any of the projects, but like I wish they would do more different characters, because like I don't really care about Bucky, and like I like the Falcon, but not enough to watch a TV show about him.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like I think those two work better as side characters. Even in the comic books, like I don't really like Bucky, like the Winter Soldier is at his best whenever he's with Black Widow. And the stuff that I've read of just him alone is usually not as entertaining as whenever he can bounce off someone else. It's like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Like his own movie is okay. It's pretty okay. But like whenever he's in Thor Ragnarok and he like bounces off of Thor, he's really entertaining. And then in Infinity War, he bounces off Peter, he bounces off Tony, he bounces off the Guardians of the Galaxy, and whenever he's able to bounce off of other people, he does really like the character really works. And like that's something that I think Benedict Cumberbatch is really good at, because like if you watch Sherlock, him and Martin Freeman have like a really good rapport and banter, and they work off of each other really well. And it's something that I think has really translated over to him in his Doctor Strange performance.
Yeah.
You know? Armstrong says Shang-Chi is supposed to be a tournament movie. Oh, so it could be like Bloodsport. Nathan, have you ever seen the movie Bloodsport?
I have not.
Okay, it's this really crappy,
I think you've told me about it before.
Yeah, it's Jean-Claude Van Damme's like first movie, and it's like about all of the best martial artists in the world, and they go to this fighting tournament called a Kumite in Japan or China or whatever, and it is the like, if you think like Rocky IV is like the peak of like cheesy 80s-ness, it is blown out of the water by Bloodsport, because it's like none of the foreign actors who are like Japanese. It's not like, I don't think any of them knew how to speak Spanish, because all of their lines seem very dubbed over, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, that's that's off topic. But
all right, so what's the next question that you have?
Okay. So all of the movies leading up to Infinity War, they all were leading to Thanos.
Right.
And he is the big bad of the universe. And well, now they've defeated Thanos. So unless they do something like Galactus, where he's the World Eater, who do you think should be the next big bad guy? Because if they go back into space for a bad guy, it's gonna feel exactly like Thanos.
Right.
You know.
I'm trying to think of his name. Is it Kang? Who's like the
King the Conqueror?
Yes. I'd say he would probably be the next bad guy to do. Like, isn't he the one that can like bend time or something, like, or different universes like brought together or something like that?
Something like that. I'm sure Armstrong will correct it or something.
Yes, please correct me.
But I don't know, it's weird because like Thanos and Galactus are like the two big cosmic bad guys. Unless they do Dormammu, but he was already in the first Doctor Strange, and
Yeah.
he was kind of made into a joke with the whole like time repeating itself thing. So like I think if they're gonna if they're gonna introduce the Fantastic Four, which they definitely should, I know a lot of people have suggested this, but I think it'd be really cool if they did like Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Is like the big bad guy, because if you think about it, like he runs his own country in Latveria, but what if like instead of Latveria it's Sokovia? And he is like a dictator, and he rises to power because like Sokovia is messed up. It's a messed up country now. So it would kind of be like the Germans after World War I, where you have this guy come in and he's very charismatic and he knows how to speak, and like he promises like, oh, we're gonna make Germany great again. but you turn that to where Doctor Doom is that figurehead,
Right.
and so then like it become like it quickly like Sokovia quickly becomes one of like the world's superpowers because Doctor Doom is a genius and he also has magic. That I think that would be really interesting to do. Because then you would also have like a weird foil with Black Panther, because like he's a politician in a hidden country that is very scientifically beyond the rest of the world, and then to have another country that's run by someone who is doing a great job running the country but has evil intentions as a whole. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so if Doctor Doom is the main villain in the next so many movies, then who's going to be the villain in the first Fantastic Four movie? Is it still going to be Doctor Doom showing up, or does he come in later as like a big reveal?
With that, I think they could introduce Doctor Doom, or just have like a name drop, because like the Fantastic Four has more villains than just Doctor Doom. I don't know who I would choose to be the main villain of the Fantastic Four movie, but like Doctor Doom is one of like the most powerful villains in the Marvel universe and he's like pretty much interacted with just about everyone. Good night. And so I think it's kind of stupid to make him just be the villain for the Fantastic Four, and also the main villain for all of the Fantastic Four movies has always been Doctor Doom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, you're just asking for it to fail again if you do that.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know who would be the villain for it.
All right. So what's the next question that you have?
All right. Armstrong says to make Sokovia great again. We should put that on a baseball hat and a T-shirt.
That would be funny. Are you able to see the comments or like people commenting? Yeah. Okay, because it's not showing up on here, which is kind of weird.
I can read them.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn off this little sidebar real quick.
So like, I love the Netflix Daredevil show.
Mm-hmm.
And Marvel has canceled all of those shows and everything.
Right.
So do you think that was a good decision or a bad decision, or should they try? Because they're definitely not going to try to continue those shows on Disney Plus, because those were such dark TV shows with a lot of darker things happening. Like, what do you think should happen with that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I definitely don't think they'd be showing up on Disney Plus. I don't know. Maybe there can be an agreement made with Netflix where those shows can stay on Netflix's streaming. Just because it is like a lot darker content than what Disney normally does. I don't know. That's an interesting thought.
Because those shows were pretty popular. At least like Daredevil and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones were, you know. And I mean, they had an audience. They were, at least Daredevil was very critically acclaimed because it was just like it had such a strong plot overall. And like Kingpin, I think, is one of the best in that show, is one of the best villains in the TV shows and the movies combined.
For sure.
So I don't know. I wish Marvel and Netflix could be the outlet for the gritty, like, street level superheroes, and then they can have, like, these are the good guy superheroes on their Disney Plus platform.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, because they're supposed to be making a Moon Knight TV show, and I don't know how well that will work on it with like a PG-13. Like it could definitely be done, but if it really wanted to go all out, I think they would have to put it on. If they could get an agreement, they would have to put it on Netflix.
Right.
Because like it would be very psychological, and there would be like these weird trips where he would go on where he just wouldn't know his identity and everything. But I don't know, I really wish they would bring back Daredevil in those shows because they were just so good.
Yeah, I really liked Daredevil. I didn't really like Iron Fist that much, but I watched it anyways. And then I didn't watch Luke Cage or Jessica Jones. I tried to watch Defenders, but I couldn't really get into it. But Daredevil was definitely the best one out of those, and I enjoyed it a lot.
I don't know, like they're not going like there's no way they're gonna make a movie with Charlie Cox as Daredevil, you know? And like I think Charlie Cox is on par like with Chris Evans, maybe not Robert Downey Jr., but really close to having like one of those performances that is, while being pretty accurate, also builds on the character.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's no one talks about Daredevil anymore, and it's kind of depressing to me. But okay, my next question is, do you think it's too late for the Black Widow movie and they announced that they're making a Hawkeye TV show?
They are?
Yeah, or at least they released like a clip of like the intro or something. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's too late, honestly. Those should have been made earlier, and it's not like there wasn't a popular demand for it back before, Infinity War and Endgame. There's always popular demand for movies for those characters, and it just never happened. So I do think it's too late now that, Black Widow's gone and Endgame is over and everything. So what do you think about that?
I mean, they should have made the Black Widow movie instead of Thor the Dark World, because Thor the Dark World I think is the worst Marvel movie because it is so bland and it is so forgetful. Like I don't even remember what happens in that movie.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what happens at all. Like I don't know who the main bad guy is. There's no memorable lines, there's no memorable moments, and it's the worst movie because it's so forgettable. And like I mean, the first Thor movie was okay, but it wasn't nearly as good as the first Captain America, the first Iron Man. It wasn't good enough to warrant making a sequel. So instead of making that, I just don't understand why they didn't make Black Widow a movie, because she was way, besides like my mother, like Black Widow is way popular than Thor, because like Thor is my mom's favorite Avenger because he's funny, and two, because he's a tall glass of water, I mean, I don't know, I mean, Black Widow is in Winter Soldier, and she plays a pretty big part in that, but I mean, they could have just given her own movie too,
And if not a movie, then at least like a TV show or something like that.
Okay, did you ever watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I tried to watch it. I think I watched the first episode, maybe the first 2 episodes, but I didn't continue it after that. What about you?
I watched like the first part of the season, and when I realized that no one from the from the actual Avengers movies was gonna show up, I stopped watching it, because like they always they never interact with Iron Man. They're like, oh yeah, Tony Stark used this coffee mug, and we're like, are we ever gonna see him use the coffee mug? Like, nope. So then I was like, okay, so I'm never gonna see Iron Man in the show. I'm never gonna see Cap. Like, then what's the point of it? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I like Coulson, but not enough to watch that TV show, and all the characters are either really weird or they have really weird jokes. I don't know that. I think Iron Fist is worse because it disappoints me more. But Agents of Shield is just not good.
Mhm.
But okay, that was a quick tangent.
There's also like the Agent Carter show, and isn't Inhumans a show too?
Yeah, Inhumans, I think the first episode they released in theaters or something,
Hmm.
and it was like it's not supposed to be very good. Like apparently it's really bad. But I mean, Inhumans I think have always been really boring anyways, you
Yeah.
know. It's like they wanted to do X-Men, but more fantasy based. I don't know. Like for me, it just doesn't work, you know. But I haven't watched Agent of Carter. Do you know if it's good or not?
I don't know. I haven't tried to watch it. It seems kind of interesting though. Like just because I like that period of time, and I really like the first Avenger. So, I don't know. I've thought about watching it, but I haven't gotten around to it.
My next question is there a side character in any of the movies that's not getting a TV show or a movie that you think should be, like a character that deserves or needs the spotlight?
Mm. Um. Is there any that you can think of?
I mean, I think a Winter Soldier movie would have been cool, but I think it's a little too late for that as well.
Mhm.
I mean, if if Black Widow if she hadn't died in just spoiler alert, if she hadn't died in an Endgame, I think I would have liked a Black Widow Winter Soldier movie, but I mean, I don't really like Bucky and Sam Wilson's chemistry in the movies. Maybe it's just because we haven't seen a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they just don't like each other. So I mean, is this TV show gonna be them like becoming friends, or is it just gonna be like begrudgingly working together? But I don't know. And I don't really care about Scarlet Witch. I thought Vision was cool, but I mean, you barely see any of him either. I don't know. It's weird now because a lot of them are gone, like a lot of the characters are gone, or a lot of the side characters never really had a whole lot to do. So I don't really know if any of them would actually work in a movie, or if I would even want to see them in a movie.
Yeah. I don't know. What other side characters were there that aren't getting a TV show?
War Machine.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would work very well with a movie or a TV show.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me look up a list. I mean, you also have the different Guardians. You know, I think Groot and Rocket having their own
That would be fun.
little adventures would be kind of fun. They do have a lot to do in the movies. I mean, I don't think it warrants enough to give them their own thing. Okay, I'm gonna look up a list. Loki does not need a TV show.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous. Like, I think he's a good villain in the first Avengers movie, but I mean, he's been it's they keep beating the dead horse with it, you know, like he doesn't need a TV show. He's not the best villain for Marvel, you know. Like, 'cause it seems like everybody just like goes crazy over Loki.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's been in so many of the movies. He's been in every single of the Thor movies. He's been in, you know, the first Avengers. He's been in Infinity War and Endgame, and he's been in so much. I don't feel like we need more of Loki. Just like there's been an excess of Loki almost, you know?
Armstrong says according. I don't remember that character or how to say his name. Sitcom. I think he means like the little creature that Korg thinks is dead and Thor Ragnarok, but then comes back to life. But
That's what we need. We need a TV show about Korg.
that would just be funny.
It just needs to be a sitcom with Korg. Just him playing Fortnite.
Oh my gosh. No, this is what they should do. Taika Waititi should come up with a like a YouTube channel, and he can do like video game walkthroughs and live streams and act as Korg. That's what they should do.
I would definitely watch that.
Oh, I would too. That'd be great. I mean, there's like the Wasp, but I don't really like the Wasp in the movies.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because like I like Scott Lang and like Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, but like Hank Pym, it should have been just the definitive Ant-Man in the movies.
Mhm.
But
What about like Scott Lang's friend, the Mexican guy, who's always telling those stories? That would be fun.
just like his own, like he would just have his own show.
Not necessarily a show, like a little short film. Like it could just be like 5 minutes of just him telling one of his stories or something like that. I think that would be funny.
That'd be pretty funny. Or if he just does like a retrospective of all the Marvel movies. Or
Yes.
whatever, that would be pretty funny. But my problem with that, or with him, like at least with his character, is that he is really funny in the first Ant-Man movie.
Mhm.
But then in the Ant-Man the Wasp, that movie is just, I think besides Thor: The Dark World, I think that's like the second worst Marvel movie. It's so boring and it's not funny. It's frustrating because like Ant-Man is kind of like a joke now, because like it's like Marvel didn't think that they could sell an Ant-Man movie, so it's like, oh, let's make it funny, let's make it a comedy. Like it may have been directed by Edgar Wright, and I like his movies, but I mean it's kind of frustrating because Hank Pym plays such a big part in the Marvel universe. Like if you watch Earth's Mightiest Heroes, like he's smart. He's as smart as Tony Stark, you know.
Mhm.
And he plays such a big part in those shows, like in the comics, like making Ultron. But they decided to make him like the comic relief of the Avengers team. But I don't know. That's just my problem. Oh, it's not Paul Rudd's performance or anything. That's my problem with the writers and what they've chosen to do with his character. But I mean, Shuri would be interesting, like Black Panther's little sister, but I mean, she has a pretty big part to play in the movies anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just move on to the next question.
Okay, yeah. Do you think now that since now that the main story's over, that Marvel, like they're focusing more on like side characters, but do you think they should do kind of like what DC did with the Joker, where they just make like independent films of characters? Do you think that would be like a good idea? Like they would just give, instead of giving like Moon Knight a TV show, they would just make one independent film that doesn't tie into anything, and it would just be about that character. There'd be no bigger story at play. Like there wouldn't be like a big bad Doctor Doom that all the movies tie into, and they would just be like individual stories that don't really connect to each other.
I think that'd be interesting, but I think that's what DC should stick to more. And, you know, because Marvel's already been known for tying their stuff together. So I think they should stick with that and let DC be the more independent film thing, you know?
Yeah. And, I mean, I think that would be interesting if Marvel did that, but I kind of agree with you that because they've already established this shared universe that works very well, like it doesn't it'd be kind of weird if the movies turned into that.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, my next question is something that like we talked about a lot earlier, and that like I'm sure like Armstrong has an opinion about. It's the Martin Scorsese saying that the Marvel movies aren't real cinema; they're theme park rides.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have quite a bit, like, you have quite a bit to say about it. So.
Yeah, okay, so originally, I agreed with what Scorsese said about them being like amusement park rides. But then when I started to talk with you about it, when we were texting, I kind of came to agree more with what you said about, you know, it's not necessarily right for him to give that kind of criticism. But I do believe that part of what he said is right. Because, well, like, nowadays it seems like the only kinds of movies that are going into theaters are the same. You know, they're either like those big franchise blockbusters or some kind of generic film. You know, they all seem like there's a formula going on, and they're all the same. You know, there's like the Transformers franchise, there's the Avengers, there's Star Wars, there's all the classic Disney remakes, and then you have films like Marriage Story or Good Will Hunting or The Irishman, you know, and how those are more independent. And he says like that they're amusement parks, right?
They're like theme park rides.
Yeah, I definitely, part of me agrees with that. The Marvel movies are definitely exciting. They're really enjoyable, full of action and good humor, and they're even able to hit dramatic beats at points. You know, with Black Widow's death and Iron Man as well. But there's plenty of dramatic moments in those movies. But I don't know. I think for the most part, those movies are like people watch them for the action and for that kind of excitement that you get, like the humor, like with Thor Ragnarok. I love that movie just because it's hilarious, and I always rewatch it just to get a good laugh, you know, and to see that action. Let's see. Let me look at my notes real quick.
Like just like a quick thing is that like Martin Scorsese has like kind of explained himself better in different interviews. I watched one. It's like the director's roundtable, and he was on it, and they brought up like what he said, he's like, well, like amusement park rides, like they aren't bad. Like it's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's just that maybe like kind of like you said, like there's a lot of like it's almost too much. But it's interesting because I kind of have a problem with him saying that they're not cinema, because so my problem, like I have an issue with that because Martin Scorsese pretty much only makes like one kind of movie, or generally like if you type in Martin Scorsese, like his like Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, like those are all movies about this guy who's kind of like a really crappy person, and it's more about their mental health and their struggle. And ironically enough, almost all of his movies have the same actors, and like they're all like Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
And it feels like hypocritical for someone who criticizes one style of movie, but then sticks so religiously to another. Like it's weird because it's like art, you know, like there can be like a fourth grader's finger painting, and then you have Michelangelo. They're both art, they both use paint, they were both made by someone who was inspired by something, you know, but they're just different styles, they're different types of movies. And like Martin Scorsese kind of like talks about that in some of the interviews, that they're just different types of movies. But to discredit one as not being actual cinema just feels wrong to me, because like Martin Scorsese is a very accomplished director. Like he directed Silence, and Silence I think is one of the greatest movies ever made. But I mean, like if you had someone like J.J. Abrams come in and be like, oh well, The Irishman isn't real cinema, like people would have like an actual problem with that. Because a lot of people assume cinema is long, boring movies with a message in it, like, and they get really philosophical with it. Well, like really, cinema is just it's like you could consider a movie on YouTube cinema, you know, because they're all movies, they're all made in real time and then recorded and then watched later, you know.
Yeah.
And it's I know when he means cinema, he means like fancy stories with the message, but to just say that these Marvel movies that are labored over, people work really hard on them, and to be like, oh well, they're not real movies, they're not real cinema, just it seems like very tacky and wrong to me.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
like when we were texting earlier, I said that there are movies and there are films. So, and like movies, I consider to be like those blockbuster movies, like the Avengers, like Star Wars is now, and Transformers. Those movies are meant to entertain. And then there's films, and then films are more the stuff that has a deeper meaning to it. You know, it's trying to tell a message or show a perspective of something, trying to get a point across. So that's how I view things, and like all of that is considered cinema. It's just two like subcategories of cinema. So I definitely think that it was wrong for Scorsese not to consider it all cinema, because obviously it is. It's, you know, times have changed to where that's the type of stuff that we all watch now. That's the stuff that's in theaters most often. And you know, while I think that should change, just because, you know, with all that kind of stuff, that's big corporate companies that are filling up all the theaters with their huge blockbuster stuff that I don't necessarily consider. I mean, it's just about taste, because some people like those blockbuster movies. I like watching the Marvel movies. I like those blockbusters. I like Star Wars and I like Transformers. But then there's also those times where I want to watch something more inspiring, something that will teach me a lesson rather than just entertain me for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And it's pretty rare for those types of movies to be put in movie theaters, just because there's so much of those huge franchises coming out so quickly from Disney and Warner Brothers and all those different companies. It's so rare that we see an actual film, and a film being like I said earlier, where it has a message and a deeper meaning to it, and it experiments with the different ways that you can make the art of film, different camera angles, different techniques, like using puppets or stop motion, all that. That's what film is to me, is that it's got that deeper meaning, and it experiments on expanding the art further. And I feel like we need to see more of that in movie theaters. But like I said, it's just the blockbusters that we're getting, and it's not giving. It's taking away the creativity that newer filmmakers have, because Scorsese said in his article on the New York Times, I believe it was, that every filmmaker wants their masterpiece to show up in theaters on the big screen for a wide audience. That's every filmmaker's dream. And because the theaters are just being filled up with all this same kind of stuff, the people who make those kinds of films aren't getting the same kind of publicity as those huge corporate films are. And so people aren't going to see what kind of creative works those people have come up with. The only reason that the only reason that The Irishman exists is because Netflix decided to let Scorsese make it. Because nobody was going to let him make that movie except for Netflix. Netflix was the only company that let him do that gave him what he needed to make that film. So,
and it's interesting because he's like, oh well, the Marvel movies aren't real movies. It's kind of insulting Marvel and Disney.
Yeah.
But then like you said, the only reason he got to make it was because of Netflix. He discredits movies made by one multi-billion-dollar company, but then he works for he utilizes another to make his projects. It just seems really weird, because okay, well, why does that mean that all of the movies that Marvel makes are invalidated as cinema, but the Netflix movies are? I don't know. That's definitely digging in deeper than what he meant or what he said, but I don't know. It's kind of weird because Netflix has changed the game so much with movie making and just how we consume media, because now there are, I don't even know how many streaming services there are. You have Amazon, you have Disney Plus, you have Hulu, you have Netflix, and that's the way that we consume media now. Not and a lot of people just don't go to the movie theater anymore. They just wait for it to come out on Redbox or Netflix.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. I don't know. I really enjoy going to the movie theater for the experience of it, because it's vastly different from sitting at home and watching a movie. Just because, I mean, where we live, you're not going to have that huge audience that's going to be in the theaters. But like, if we go to one of the bigger cities nearby, we can also have that experience. But it's like just having a huge audience there to react to what happens in the movie, that's something that you're never going to get if you're just sitting at home watching a movie on your phone or on the TV. So that's one of the things that, you know, nothing can replace that experience. And if I could, I would go to the movie theater every single time I wanted to watch a movie. But then again, it's that thing where, you know, because of Marvel movies, they've been such a huge success, and so people are trying to kind of like ride on that success by making stuff that's like the Marvel movies. And so we're getting more of these huge blockbuster movies that have super high budgets and all the greatest actors and stuff. And so that takes away
weird comedy jokes.
Yeah, it's not like
always thematically appropriate.
All of these knockoff Marvel movies and stuff. Like the Transformers movies. I don't consider those good movies. I mean, they're okay, and there's certain aspects of them that I like, but I don't think they're really good. And I think that was kind of going off the popularity of Marvel movies, you know, to have this huge franchise that has so many movies and so many different characters and stuff. And then there's the DC movies as well. And so there are all these different franchises trying to be Marvel, and Star Wars, I feel like that's what they were trying to do with Star Wars, is they're trying to build it into a Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's why you know, those rumors of Kevin Feige coming to Star Wars, I don't want that to happen because I don't want it to be like Marvel. But so many people are trying to copy what Marvel did so that they can be successful. And then just because that's happening, all of those movies are getting put into theaters. And so, you know, those people who actually want to expand, you know, the way films are made and stuff, and to actually make meaningful films that they want people to learn from or to hear messages that are in those films, they're not able to get those movies into the theaters just because it's filled up with everything. And you know, you and I, we want to be filmmakers. We want to have that kind of success. We want our movies to show up in theaters if we make it into the business. But just because all those big budget films require so many people who want to direct movies and, you know, produce those kinds of movies have to take on a different job because they're not able to make the movie themselves. They're not able to get that kind of financing that the Marvel movies have or the Star Wars movies have or anything. And so they have to take on a job that they don't necessarily want to do just so that they are able to make money. It just takes away from the creativity of the people because they're not going to want to try and make something if there's not a possibility of them getting it done, you know? I think that's what's wrong.
Speaking of knockoffs, okay, so a couple years ago, did you ever watch the movie King Arthur and the Legend of the Sword?
I heard about it. I saw the trailers. I did not want to watch it.
It is not good. I like King Arthur movies. You know, like Sword in the Stone is one of my favorite Disney movies, and I was down for it. I was like, okay, there's a modern King Arthur movie. I'll watch it, see how it is. And I watched it, and it is such a piece of crap. And then after I watched it, I was watching like a review on it, and it was talking, and apparently they wanted to have like a King Arthur cinematic universe,
Yeah.
and they were gonna make like a Lancelot movie. They're gonna make like different. They're gonna make movies for like every member of the Round Table or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a bad idea. That's why, like, who came up with that and thought that was a good idea?
Yeah. I I don't know. I feel like that's not the direction that the film industry needs to go in. We need to let lesser known people be able to be discovered and to make their dreams come true of getting their movies in theaters. And not just like in a small theater in a local town, but like multiple theaters across the entire country, across the world, where if you go to a theater, you're going to see these more independent films and that aren't part of a franchise or well, you know what I mean, right? So I think that's the way that it needs to go, and I feel like because of Marvel, we're taking away from those filmmakers. And
But also something with that is that a lot of people aren't willing to take a risk. Like, I mean, if they hear, oh, there's a new Disney movie, they're gonna go watch that because pretty consistently Disney makes pretty good movies, So they're going to do the safer choice for their money because going to the movies is so expensive nowadays. I mean, they're gonna see a Disney movie that they know they'll probably like over some independent film that they know nothing about.
yeah,
And I think if the film industry wants new people, they need to start putting more money into smaller projects.
that's
None of this is gonna happen.
mm-hmm.
Like we wish it would happen, but it's not going to. It's very wishful thinking.
One of the things that Scorsese says in his article is and I'm quoting here, the fact is that the screens in most multiplexes are crowded with franchise pictures, and if you're going to tell me that it's simply a matter of supply and demand and giving the people what they want, I'm going to disagree. It's a chicken and egg issue. If people are given only one kind of thing and endlessly sold only one kind of thing, of course they're going to want more of that one kind of thing. We live in a society. Oh wait, that's the end of the quote. So, all we're being sold is these kinds of blockbusters, and so that's all people want. Nobody's gonna branch off and try and watch other things because it's unfamiliar. People like to be comfortable, so they're gonna do what makes them comfortable. So.
Yeah, I mean and I mean used to you could go see a movie for like $5. So I mean everyone could go see a movie. Now it's not only is it just expensive to get a movie ticket, but if you want popcorn, I mean most people smuggle snacks in.
They snuggle snacks.
Yeah, they snuggle the snacks. No, I'm joking. But they smuggle them in their purse or whatever, and they're like, oh, I don't have candy in here, and then they're like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. Like, are you really gonna look in my purse? And so then they're like, okay, whatever. But even still, just getting a movie ticket is expensive. And it's frustrating because going to the movie theater, like used to, you could just go to the movie theater like every day if you wanted to, and just for a couple of dollars. But now it's like it's a special, like it's a treat if you get to go to the movie theater. So I mean, kind of the whole thing about making the safe choice is that you're not going to be wasting money.
Right.
It's frustrating because I wish that like going to the movies was cheaper so I could go more. But I mean, they would just be playing the Marvel movies or the Disney movies. But I mean, if they would make the tickets cheaper, maybe people would go out and try something different, you know?
Yeah. Let's see.
If you don't have any more, like I have one more question, and we already kind of touched on it.
Okay. I have one more quote from Scorsese in his article. Do you want to hear that or not? Okay. So this is the quote. This is how he ends the article. And he says, "There's a worldwide audiovisual entertainment, and there's cinema. They still overlap from time to time, but that's becoming increasingly rare. And I fear that the financial dominance of one is being used to marginalize and even belittle the existence of the other. For anyone who dreams of making movies or who is just starting out, the situation at this moment is brutal and inhospitable to art. And the act of simply writing those words fills me with terrible sadness." And that kind of goes along with what we said earlier about, you know, people not being able to make their creative dreams come true and stuff. So,
I mean, he is right, you know.
yeah.
I mean, that's true. But, I don't know. That's depressing. On to Marvel.
Right.
Okay, so my last question that... Or actually, I have two more questions. Like, we already kind of touched on this, but... What do you think is going to happen if Kevin Feige does get put in charge of Star Wars? Do you think he'll, like, understand that Star Wars is different and try to focus more... like on a trilogy, or do you think he'll try to do what he did with Marvel and have all these different stories going on and then try to tie them into something else?
Well, I think it's less about what Kevin Feige wants and more what Disney wants with Star Wars. And I feel like what Disney wants is for Star Wars to become like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and have all these different movies tie in together. And that's why they're trying to get Kevin Feige like working on Star Wars, just because he's done such a good job with Marvel that they think he'll do a good job with Star Wars and make it like Marvel. And that's exactly what I don't want to happen with Star Wars. So I don't know. I just think that Kevin Feige should stay with Marvel since, you know, he's already been making that successful. And, you know, even now, I'm afraid that the quality of Marvel movies is about to drop because Endgame's done. You know, Thanos has been defeated, and that's what 22 movies has been building up to. And 22 movies, that's a lot of movies. And I think they should just quit while they're ahead. You know, they've already accomplished what they set out to do. So I don't really see the point in continuing, but they're obviously continuing. So I think that Kevin Feige should still be the one in charge just because he made this first part of Marvel, these first 22 movies, so successful. So I don't want him working on Star Wars. I want somebody who, you know, the fans of Star Wars trust and who they love and who loves the content of Star Wars, the world of Star Wars, to work on Star Wars, you know. So
my next thing is there a movie director that you think would be good, like would make a solid Marvel movie? 'Cause, like, so if like in my head, like if they're going to make a Fantastic Four movie, I would really want Chris Columbus to direct it. He's the guy who directed Home Alone.
Yeah.
the first couple Harry Potters and like the first couple Percy Jackson movies or whatever. But I would really want him to do it because like he knows how to make character relationships work, and he knows how to make a spectacle. And I don't know, I feel like he would just make like such a solid Fantastic Four movie. I mean, a long time ago, like in the 90s, he was supposed to work like on a Fantastic Four TV show, and I don't know, I think that'd be really cool just to like come back to him and be like, hey, we're gonna let you make like do what you like, have someone write a really tight script and be like, all right, here you go, like just blow us away, because I feel like he definitely would make such a he would just make such a fun adventure action like science weird movie, but it would just be solid overall.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool.
I would say Christopher Nolan, but then again, he's already made the Batman movies, so I'm not exactly sure about that. But I think it'd be cool if he got to do a Marvel movie.
My other choice is the Duffer Brothers, the guys who made Stranger Things. If they're gonna make a Moon Knight TV show, they should have them do it, because they would be able to do the dark grittiness, and Stranger Things is weird, and so is Moon Knight. Like Moon Knight has like a multiple personality disorder, and sometimes in the comic books, like he doesn't know which version of himself he is. So sometimes he's like a famous movie actor, and they're making a movie about Moon Knight. Or sometimes he's like, in one of them, he's like fighting in like a space opera battle thing, and like his ship is called the Moon, or he's called the Moon Knight or whatever. And it goes completely crazy, and I feel like the Duffer Brothers would really enjoy that and really have a good time with that.
Yeah.
Either have them work on Moon Knight, or literally just have them do X-Men, because 11 is basically already a mutant.
Yeah, that would be, I think that would be a really good show to watch if the Duffer Brothers were working on Moon Knight. But, you know, then again, like, Stranger Things is still going on, and I don't see any plans for it to stop anytime soon, at least not yet. Season 3 made it seem like they were going to just keep on going until it loses popularity, so... Which...
They really need to stop.
Yeah. I don't... That's like another thing, is... Like, it doesn't seem like Hollywood knows when to stop making certain movies, or... You know, it doesn't seem like certain shows know when to stop. They just do it to death and milk it until there's nothing left.
Well, I mean, Hollywood has always been like that. I mean, it used to be about cowboys and Indians. There used to be, like, if they just put John Wayne on a poster, they could sell a movie. They could sell a cowboy movie. Like, John Wayne is like the one actor that's been in the most movies ever. I'm pretty sure. I think I'm right on that. But just because they could just slap him on a poster in a cowboy hat and they could sell a movie and people would go watch it, you know. I mean, there's always been something that they just milk the crap out of, and they just do over and over again until it's just terrible, you know.
Right.
But I don't know.
That's a topic for another day, for another podcast. So, do you have any more Marvel questions?
No, that's all I have.
Okay. I don't think I have any questions. So, do you want to go ahead and end this? Unless anyone in the chat has anything to say, I don't have anything to say. Yeah.
Or to add to the conversation.
I feel like we need to open up these podcasts to the people that are watching it. And so like for those of you who are watching, if you come back and join us for another podcast, feel free to put down a comment and join the conversation. You know, tell us what your thoughts are and ask us questions and stuff so that the conversation can continue and can be more in depth. That makes us yeah.
Maybe you think we're completely wrong and we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I would like to know what your thoughts are.
We'll try not to be aggressive in arguing, but you know, we'll try and negotiate peacefully. But yeah, like if like the people that are watching join the conversation, that makes it more enjoyable for us because we have other people to talk to and to get ideas and bounce off of those ideas. And then it makes it more enjoyable for you guys because you're involved. So don't be scared to comment. Has anybody commented anything?
No.
Okay.
Except for Armstrong when he was like, that's the books versus novels argument, and then he said, or butts versus booties. So.
All right.
I mean, yeah.
Do you want to wait and see if somebody says something, or?
No, I mean, we've been going, how long have we been going?
I have no idea. It doesn't show time.
Okay, well, we started at
8:30.
8:30, and it is now 9:52.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so
like almost like an hour and a half.
yeah, we'll go ahead and end it here. So until next time, when we either do a chill live stream or another Pass the Gravy podcast. So.